Hi everyone, my name is Dave and welcome to Extra Credit, a video series where we take an unscripted look at topics related to local history and exploring that history. So as per usual, at the start of the episode, just a quick reminder to visit my website. You'll find a link in the description. There you'll find all kinds of content related to the topics we take a look at in this video series, and then some, including a section for extra credit. So if you're new here and if you haven't seen any of the previous episodes, you'll find a listing of all of the topics that we've taken a look at, and then some, including some future episodes that we have not yet gotten to, but we will in the coming months. If you've seen extra credit before, you can go back and take a look at some previous episodes. Maybe you want to go over something, or maybe you missed the episode here and there. Additionally, please make sure that you follow me on social media. So you'll find me on Facebook, you'll find me on Twitter or X, and you'll find me on Instagram. And last but not least, if you haven't already done so, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel, turn on the notifications. There is a fair amount of content that drops fairly regularly on the channel, particularly in the spring and the fall when we're out actively hiking for our other video series, like our offbeat series. And by subscribing, turning on the notifications, you're going to get the content more quickly than if you're waiting for it to come on social media, because there's the delay. So for example, there's been a pile of episodes that just dropped between May and now. And those episodes will not be going onto social media until the late fall and into the winter, right? So you're going to get that content as soon as possible. All right, so we're back with yet another episode in our Kinghorn exploration series, not the full sort of video series, but sort of these extra credit episodes where we just kind of go out and point out a few things in certain places. And in our previous episode, so the one that dropped last month, we were out in Cameron Falls, and so the area around Cameron Falls south to the Nipigon River. So what's interesting, and I pointed it out in that episode, is basically we did these two episodes back to back, and these were filmed last fall. So now it's basically the summer of 2024. Those were filmed in the fall of 2023. So we had done the Cameron Falls episode on the Saturday, which I think was the last day of September, was the 30th of September. And then this episode, which we are going to one of my favorite places, which is Orient Bay. We filmed this on a Sunday, so this would have been the first day of October. It would have been the 1st of October. So speaking of one of my favorite places, Orient Bay is one of my favorite places on the former Kinghorn line. It's probably one of the most beautiful places, not only in terms of railway lines, both former and active, but it's just an amazing place in terms of its natural beauty. And just sort of the look of the entire place in the entire area. Um, one of the key features, and we don't talk about that in this particular video. We're going to go back this fall and we're going to be making another video of kind of a little bit more of the northern area, but we didn't talk about places like the Nipigon Lodge. So when the railway line that ran through there, when it was first opened by Canadian Northern Railway in 1915, a year later, so the railway line was officially opened in late 1915, so October 1915, and the following year, by the summertime, so the summer of 1916, Canadian Northern had opened a lodge on on basically where there's kind of a meeting of two bays. And so basically Orient Bay was the southern part of a larger bay known as Pidgetawabik or Pidgetawabik Bay. And that bay used to be an old outlet going back in ancient geological history of Lake Nipigon. And so again, you have Pidgetawabik Bay, and then you have Orient Bay, and where the station was basically kind of where the bay kind of narrows, and it was sort of the ending point of Pidgetawabik Bay and the start of Orient Bay, and so that spot was known as Orient Bay Station. And Canadian Northern built a lodge there, and it was supposed to be kind of a moneymaker. It was supposed to bring in tourists. It was supposed to bring in hunters and people who wanted to fish in the particular area. So they built a lodge and they built cabins for people to visit there. I don't want to get too much into the story because there's kind of a little sort of very interesting sort of part to it. And anyway, so we kind of did everything kind of to the south of there. So we started at Cove Inlet, and or just south of Cove Inlet, and we worked our way south along, um, Orient Bay, and so we're going to go back and we're going to kind of do part of Pijatawabik Bay to Orient Bay Station and to down to Cove Inlet in the fall time. Anyway, I don't want to get into too much into that episode. We want to talk about this particular episode, and so again, the whole purpose of this was the dog scratching here, and she's shaking the camera as she's doing that. And here she is coming for a visit. Hi, Lou. And so anyway, so the whole purpose of doing this, like the previous episode that we did, we filmed an episode of Extra Credit because we were going to use the drone to record the bridge over the Nippigan River. So for this episode, the whole point of it was we wanted to use the drone to get some footage of Orient Bay in the fall time with the colors. It's just an absolutely gorgeous place. So I figured while we were there, we could film an episode of Extra Credit. And so again, we started just to the south of Cove Inlet. So Cove Inlet basically was a location on the railway line that was not sort of railway affiliated. It was basically a logging spur that was used in the 1920s and in the early 30s, and then it kind of disappeared there for a while. And then the Abitibi Company basically set up shop there, and they were there until the 1970s, and they used it as a marine base for their boats that were going out on the lake and basically towing booms of logs and things like that. And so we basically started from just south of there, and we worked our way all the way down to where the next road access is, which is called Shadow Creek Road, which is right towards the bottom end of the bay. And so we basically worked our way along. We passed, some of the other access roads that basically are going into people's properties and things like that. There used to be a boat charter on there, Nighthawk Charters. We passed by. We certainly passed by McCollum's Reflection Lake Resort. McCollum's is, and I'll put a link to McCollum's in there. McCollum's is one of the, I believe it's the last operating resort on Orient Bay. And I've had a few good conversations with the owner, Lori, and basically that resort has been there since the 1940s. I believe his father established that way back when, and it is just an absolutely gorgeous spot. And so again, we were there to do the drone footage. And so again, make sure you check out the link. I'll put a link to that video. And so basically we stopped 4 times, I believe, and I recorded 4 separate sections of the or bay, or 4 or 3 or whatever I did. In any case, you're going to see some really, really gorgeous video footage of the bay. So without any further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, so we're ready to start adventure here. So we are just south of a place called Cove Inlet, which used to be a stop on the railway line. There was a spur, and there was a bunch of things that were happening here, and you can watch that in the railway videos. We're going to be stopping by Cove Inlet on another Extra Credit exploration. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to work our way from the south here alongside Orient Bay, this very, very beautiful spot, all the way to a place called Shadow Creek Road. Now, as I mentioned, we're going to be stopping periodically because I need to use the drone. We just shot some drone footage here. Wanted to do a video of this place in the fall. It's a bit foggy today, which is a little bit frustrating. A lot of the parts of the grade here were built on fill, and so this is basically all fill. The shoreline used to be over there. So Orient Bay is a bay on Lake Nippigan. You're going to see lots of these, the cribs for the telegraph poles. And so it connects to the north with something called Pijatawabik Bay. And then it goes into Lake Nipigon. Now this used to be an outlet of the lake way back in geologic history. You can see there's another crib down there. Just again, just absolutely a gorgeous, gorgeous place. Nobody knows, seems to know the origins of the name Orient Bay, how it got this name. A lot of the names of places around here are indigenous. So for example, Pidgetawabik or Pidgetawabik Bay, basically in Ojibwe translates into Bay of the Rock Faces, which you can see these big rock ridges here. On my way here, I actually noticed something that I hadn't seen before. You can actually look down here and you can see what looks like discarded concrete ties. This is a very common thing that the railway would do in places. So there's a spot just north of Orient Bay Station, right at the bottom end of Pidgetawabik, where they've dumped these, and you're gonna see one up ahead. So basically these are used for erosion control. Right, so basically you can imagine the waves sort of smashing against here and eroding the grade. You're going to see lots of little access roads coming down. So here's one of them. So here used to be the location of a charter. Basically because of its connection to Lake Nipigon. Right from the very, very beginning, Orient Bay. Here you can see another crib. Orient Bay used to be a very big spot for, and because the railway comes close to the bay, and you know, obviously you're in a bay, so the water's a little bit calmer. This was sort of a natural spot for people to access Lake Nipigon. So again, in another episode, we're going to talk a little bit about Orient Bay Station. So basically, you got a lot of things happening here, right? So Cove Inlet, again, there was, you know, there was a spur. They were bringing in wood. There was later a marine base where they had boats that were moving logs on Lake Nipigon. And here, so there was just up here, there was a place called Nighthawk Charters, where they used to run charters on Lake Nipigon. So here you can see one of the old private crossing signs for the several old crossings that were here. And I'm guessing that's the other sign there. And then here, this was Nighthawk Charters here. And here you can see a piece of a telegraph pole. And over here, really, really neat. There was back in 2005, right after the railway was shut down, there was an excursion. There was a motor car excursion that they did on the line, and they actually had some shots here passing by Orient Bay Station, and they actually passed by here. And you can see Nighthawk Charters, you can see the boat here, and there's actually a milepost marker with a flanger sign on it. And so here it is over here. It's been dumped over on the other side of the grade. All right, so there's your flanger sign, there's your milepost marker. So milepost 93. Again, we've mentioned this on numerous occasions. So the mileage that's shown on these markers is the one for the Kinghorn Subdivision, which was the last sort of iteration of this line. Basically prior to that, when it was part of Canadian Northern Railway, when it was the Nipigon Subdivision, and until 1960, when it was the Dorion Subdivision, the mileage was different because the Kinghorn started in Long Lac, but the Nipigon Subdivision and the Dorion Subdivision started in a place called Jellicoe. So the mileage is 49.7 miles less than it's shown on these signs. So here's the crossing here for Nighthawk Charters. Basically, you can see here, there's the private crossing sign for this side, and here's the private crossing sign on this side. So here you can see, again, you can see the length of Orient Bay stretching back that way, right? I don't know if you can kind of see it there, right where I'm pointing there. That's where Orient Bay Station is.
And then on the other side of that's Pejetawabic Bay. So you can see this beautiful little cove here that's formed, and you can see all the concrete ties that have been dumped in here, all the rock fill. Again, this was a problematic area because of erosion. So the story is with these concrete ties, and I don't know kind of all the exact details, but these ties were defective. Whether CN used them and then found out they were defective, or they never even used them because there was something wrong with them. So they had apparently thousands of these concrete ties. And so they basically used them in places like this to, again, use as a form of erosion control. That the proper term for it's called rip wrap. And so you'll see these periodically. Like I said, there's 3 spots here. We've pointed out one. This is the... we pointed out the second one. This is the third one. And then there's a big section of it by, we were just there in June, between Nipigon and Red Rock. So another thing to point out, I don't know if you can kind of see it, there's a tree that's kind of jutting out here, and then there's a bunch of weeds, and I don't know if you can make it on the camera, there's actually a bunch of rails that are sitting in the water. And it's so neat. When I was here in 2020, the first time I came through here, I was like super excited. I'm like, oh my God, there's still a spur here. Ran down, took video and everything. As it turns out, it wasn't anything to do with the railway. So apparently those rails were put in there by Nighthawk charters to get their boat in and out of the water. So a little bit of a false alarm. So this area is really, really neat. We were here not this past spring, the spring before. So the spring of 2022, we came here and we redid the video footage for this area. So what's interesting is the geography of this area has actually been changed by the railway. So again, and this is kind of the thing I'm very fascinated about, is kind of the engineering and how they decide where they're going to put the railway line. So what ended up happening was, when they originally built the railway line through here, you're trying to find the path of least resistance. What am I looking for here? I'm looking for, did I pass by it already? I'm looking for a culvert. I'm looking for a culvert. There's the culvert. So there's the culvert right there. Okay, so when the railway line came through here, and I'll put up a link to the I'll put up the video link to this video. So when we were here in 2022, explained the whole situation. We had the drone, we got some video of this area. So the issue is that originally the railway line, they didn't change the railway line, but originally the bay was different. So essentially the railway line here crossed from the eastern side of the bay to the western side. So that area over there, so just up there, I'm going to show you, that was actually attached to that shore. And here, right where this culvert is, used to be a 90-foot, I think it's 90 foot, I'm trying to remember the stats here. There was a trestle here. So there was a trestle here, and further up there was another trestle. So basically the bay, this is the original swing of the bay. So the bay comes here and then goes that way, and then comes around and crosses again. So you basically had a trestle here, you had a trestle there. They're both, I think, the same size, about 90-foot trestles. So when CN took over, they basically decided to do a little bit of changing. So what they did was they ripped out the 2 trestles and filled them in. So they basically put rock fill and filled them all in, put that culvert in over there to maintain the water flow. And then what they did was they redid the water flow, right? Because those trestles were basically an impediment to the movement of anything on the bay here. So this now part of the bay is now cut off. You basically have that one trestle, that one culvert that feeds water. This is the navigation channel now. So this was all excavated. So that all area there was all cut out. So again, that used to be, this piece here used to be attached to the western shore of the bay. Again, now it's cut off. So technically, we don't cross over to the west side of the bay up until we get to until we get a little bit further up. And so I'll drop the bike here, and basically you can see this channel that they cut, and you can see how, look at this, right? So you can basically see, look how all these rocks have all been sort of fitted in here, right? Because again, this was all rock fill that was placed. You don't see this in nature. You don't see all of these very symmetrically placed rocks. So again, this channel did not exist. So this was all done 1921-ish, 1922, right? Where they basically brought in big steam shovels. They cut this channel and then filled in the two trestles. And so it was quite a transformation. So again, if you I'll put a link to that video, and you can have a look at that. And then right here, this is, you can see kind of lots of stuff here. So this is McCollum's Reflection Lake Resort. So this is the last operating resort on Orient Bay. Remember last time I was through here, I talked to the owner, Laurie, and basically he told me that his father had come here and set up the resort back in the 1940s. So it's been here a very, very long time. It's just an amazing, amazing spot. Down here you can actually see another flanger sign. This one would have been on the other side, and it's for the bridge that's coming up. It's very unusual because it's got a bunch of stuff on it. So you can see the traditional flanger sign on the top, and then the two bottom ones, those are a variation of the flanger sign. Those are obstruction warnings. So what we have is we have a bridge coming up, and basically that is, you know, a warning to not only pull up the flanger blade, but to retract the spreader because of the sidewalls of the sidewalls of the bridge. I actually have a few nice shots of this area. So if you go to my website, I'll put a link in the description, and there's lots of there's a few pictures on here that were taken from aircraft, and you can basically see the railway grade back in the 60s, I'm guessing, or maybe the 70s. Come here. How you doing? Long time no see. Okay, and a nice little chit chat with Laurie, the owner of McCollum's here. Again, you can just see the beauty of Orient Bay here, especially with all the colors here. So, a couple of things here. Actually, three things. So first of all, you'll notice on this side here, a nice bullet-ridden sign. So that is that's a permanent slow order sign. So I'm guessing because of all of the crossings here, because of McCollum's and things like that, the trains were warned to slow down. Here we have the milepost marker for the bridge. So you can see 93.8. Again, that is the mileage on the Kinghorn. And so the original lines would have been 49.7 miles less. And here you can see this bridge. So this is a through plate girder span, okay, and basically the design of the bridge is these elevated sides give it the strength while allowing for the clearance underneath. So this bridge was replaced at the same time that those two trestles were done. And again, there was another trestle here, another 90-foot trestle. And the whole idea was basically to put this bridge in to allow navigation to the southern part of the bay, as opposed to having the trestle, which you couldn't get through. You can see here there's that little metal disc on there. So Department of Highways, that's a benchmark. And then the bridge here, it's kind of a little bit beat up. It's actually one of the only bridges that actually still has the barricades in place that basically stops traffic from moving back and forth. I can get around with my bike, but obviously if you had some sort of ATV or something, other than maybe a dirt bike, you're not going to be able to get through. So just a quick little peek here. down there is the date stamp. So probably can't see it, but it says 1920. So that was when the concrete abutments were done. I believe the actual bridge was put in place in 1921. Here you can see the bay itself. So on our way back, we have to, oops, sorry, Loon. We have to take a look at something. Lori told me, so up here there's a logging spur, and Lori told me that there was a tar pit. So maybe they were doing ties, and he said that basically they were guessing they were coating the logs with ties there. All right, so let's look over here. So we've got something else here. So we saw that flanger sign on the other side. So here's the other one. So you can basically see this one's twisted like a pretzel here, full of bullet holes. So basically you can see the top flanger sign, and then you can see the wings, the obstruction flanger sign. You can see one's ripped off, so that one's missing, but you can certainly see the other one. Okay, so let's just work our way up over there.
All right. So one of the things that you noticed about there was it was actually a cloudy morning. It was actually a foggy morning. And at one point we had to wait, like when we got to where we started the video, just south of Cove Inlet, we had to wait because I had to wait for the fog to lift because it was quite foggy. And I knew that it would be a problem flying the drone, kind of much like this morning today. It's kind of a cloudy morning here on the lake, and makes it good for the video, right? Because it sort of evens out the light and everything like that. But we might possibly get some rain today, kind of break up all the sun that we've been having. But in any case, as we normally do with these videos, you're seeing sort of the shortened version, right? And so I do sort of edit it for this series because I can't show you everything because of the episode would be way too long. But there is a full length version, so make sure that you click on the link in the description, and so you're going to find the full length video. Again, you're going to find the drone video that we shot down there as well. And so you can have a look at that. And again, there was just some amazing footage that I was able to get. Again, there was in one particular point there, right by close to McCollum's there, that I was flying the drone, and there was sort of patches of fog, and it was just sort of amazing to see, and especially with the lack of sun. It just really made the colors pop. Oh my God, Luna's coming here with her toy. She wants me to play with her. That's her water toy. We're not going to go into the water right now, Lou. But in any case, again, there was some really neat things that they're able to see, and again, it's probably one of the most beautiful sections of this former railway line. And as I mentioned earlier, it's probably one of the most beautiful sections of railway line, both active and inactive in the area. And I know it's a very popular, Orient Bay is a very popular place for rock climbers, both in the summer and in the winter. The ice climbers. There's a lot of basically waterways that kind of flow over the sides of the ridges, the Pidgeotawabik Palisades, as they're known, and people will climb up the ice formations there, and there is a hiking trail that does go to the top of the Palisades, and so you can kind of get an overhead look, and so you'll see a lot of very similar things to what I saw with the drone. So it's just, again, just an amazing area to see. And again, I talked a little bit about the, sort of the Nipigon Lodge earlier, and again, you kind of understand why, the railway wanted to build the lodge there, and why they wanted to bring people into this area, because it was just an absolutely gorgeous spot. And they wanted to market this, they wanted to sell this, they wanted people to see this area. And one of the interesting things is nobody really knows where the name Orient Bay came from. It's kind of one of those mysteries, because if you take a look at a lot of the other places, so for example, Pidgeotawabik or Pidgeotawabik Bay, was basically a name that was given to the area by the by the indigenous people that lived in the area, right? And so there's a lot of places that take their names from from things that were given to them by the First Nations people, and this is kind of the anomaly. It doesn't really fit. And so one of the things that I've sort of thought about was, where did the name come from, right? Why Orient Bay? And I've always sort of thought about it in the sense that, it was almost kind of like this, it reminded people of, a Shangri-La, right? This mythical place in the Orient, right? And I thought, maybe that's where, the idea of the name came from. But again, I don't know if we'll ever sort of solve the mystery as to where the name for Orient Bay came from. But in any case, hopefully you enjoy the video and you enjoy some of the things that we saw. Again, if you really want to see the sort of the full experience, make sure you click on the link in the description and take a look at the full length video, and you can see everything that we're able to take a look at. Again, as I mentioned, this fall we'll go back and we're going to be taking a look at the northern part of Orient Bay and taking a look at Pichitawabik Bay. It's a little wider where Pichitawabik Bay is, but again, you still see the ridges, and I'm sure it's going to be it's going to be great with the fall colors. So in any case, we're going to wrap this up. Again, we're going to be back next month with yet another episode, and we'll be back with yet more of these sort of on location in the field episodes. So make sure you stay tuned for those. But in any case, I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and again, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And again, if there's anything that you want me to take a look at in terms of topics from the area, topics of local history, things like that, please make sure you leave suggestions in the comments, and I'll see what I can do in terms of taking a look at those episodes. So in any case, thanks for tuning in, and take care and stay safe.